Those of you waiting for the new M2 iPad Pros, the redesigned budget iPads, new Mac Minis, and MacBook Pros, well, we have some bad news. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg once again reiterated that we will most likely not see an October event, and that is for a few reasons that I will explain, but I might just have a different opinion, and if I'm wrong, I think this news could be even worse. We've been covering a variety of Apple products that should be coming out this year, not only based on leaks, but actual proof with products that have been registered but not yet released, and a lot of them should be coming out this month in October. But Mark Gurman is saying that they might be announced through a press release instead of an event, and that is because there are not enough changes to warrant this event. For example, we have the M2 iPad Pro, which is not getting a full redesign, but is going to be getting some new features. For example, MagSafe wireless charging support and a glass back. Now, personally, that scares me to have a glass back on the iPad Pro, and we reported that Apple hit a roadblock with that, so I'm kind of glad. Now, Vadim talked about an option to have the actual Apple logo be the part that will transmit the charging and possibly even data, so that seems like a much better solution. And of course, another change being the M2 chip. Now, even as far as June, it was being shown off that it will launch in September or October, but now it could be just a press release. Now, on this one, I will say it is very believable for me because the M2 chip in the M2 MacBook Air and Pro wasn't as big of a deal as we expected. Of course, we saw that the power usage shot way up and the performance didn't go up that much, but what did impress me was the power efficiency with those efficiency cores. So that could be a benefit, but overall, not a lot of people really need this update. Now, what people have been waiting for are 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros with new 3nm chips being included in there. Now, we know that Apple is working on production and design for this, and we've had many solid reports that Apple will be the first to use this 3nm technology, and they will be putting it into the M2 Pro and Max chips instead of using 5nm like on the M2 MacBook Air. And we've had many reputable sources talking about this and how revolutionary it will be. So this is the first part that doesn't make sense for Apple to just do a press release on a chip that has a similar name but much better capabilities, including not only better performance, but what I think is more important, less heat. Because even right now, the 16-inch MacBook Pros do throttle if you're pushing them to the limit just because of the amount of heat that is put out. If this is gonna be the case, I do not see how Apple could just do a press release, but we also have the option of Apple still using 5nm for these laptops because it's too early or something else went wrong, and in that case, there's really no reason to show it off. To make this worse, Apple has reportedly rejected TSMC's price hike for new chips. And of course, Apple has a lot of weight because they buy so many chips, but if they're trying to make this 3nm work the fastest possible, get enough supply, how can they just say, sorry, we're not gonna pay it, unless they're willing to wait on those chips? Now, we know that tech product sales have been down across the board with consumers having to spend more money on regular items like gas and other things like groceries because everything's been so much more expensive. And now we see that iPhone 14 sales have also been quite bad. And we have this new report saying that the iPhone 14 has depreciated in value more than twice as much as the 13 in the same time frame, which that wasn't a big upgrade either. So Apple could be taking the safer route, doing less expensive updates. For example, the M2 MacBook Pro was a very clear case of this. Same thing for these MacBooks, just getting a slight bump with the 5nm version of those chips and just releasing it as a press event. Now, what doesn't make sense to me are some other products. Now, sure, we have the new Mac Mini that was shown to be a redesigned version, then people are talking about it maybe staying the same. If Apple doesn't change anything there, that could easily be a press event. But my opinion is, with this new 10th generation budget iPad seeing a redesign with the new flat sides with USB Type-C, and it being a 10th generation product, the decade product, which is important for Apple. I don't see how they could be releasing this product without an event. So personally, now that Apple is doing these online streaming events where they are pre-recording everything, it's almost like, why would you not do an event? It's easier, it's safer, it's more cost effective, and if you have a new product launching that's gonna be a really crazy seller, a lot of people are finally gonna wanna update from their old designs and stick around for a long time, that would make sense. So personally, I feel like if they're not doing an October event, which they have done October events for many, many years, it would absolutely make sense to maybe push it back till November, where you can release some of these products and then potentially talk about the Mac Pro that we've been waiting for a long time, with Apple's 2-year transition from Intel that they talked about. Those 2 years are up this November from when they launched the original M1 chips. And if we're going back to WWDC when they announced Apple Silicon, well, it's been 2.5 years now. So they should at least announce it. And of course, we've had many leaks about that system. Those are actually in the wild being tested by engineers, different versions of them. So that has to be coming. And now production is ramping up for different machines like the 16-inch MacBooks with M1 Max that were delayed for a while. The Mac Studios are getting a little bit better. So it definitely can't be that much of a production problem. And we've even had a lot of info on the 27-inch iMacs and iMac Pros. Those are out in the wild, multiple versions of them going through, and the latest ones having the new high-end chips with the new redesign. So all of that is in the works with the Mac Minis, with these new MacBooks. We have those iPads with the CAD leaks that came out. There's just so much products that need to be released. So it just seems weird not to really even have an event. So maybe they could still do some of these products that are gonna have minor refreshes, do that as a press release here in October, and then in November, do something major, because we know that when they do a major event like that, when they have all that footage, they have that all attention, that does spread the news way better. I think sales are better too after a major event like that, instead of just dropping something online that doesn't get as much coverage. So that is personally my opinion. We are excited about these new products. Some of them we've been personally waiting for our production here on YouTube to be able to use, like that 27-inch iMac. Those are great machines. And of course, we want these new 3nm chips. Vadim's been talking about that for a long time. The production is there. So hopefully Apple will surprise us and we'll have better news instead of the news that we're getting recently. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to see more videos, we have some more coming up on the new iPhone 14 Plus and how that's going to compare with the Pros, as well as more comparisons. I'm going to do a comparison with the iPhone 14 Pros against a professional camera that's 50 megapixels, a very expensive setup. So if you guys want to see all of that, click that circle above to subscribe. Check out one of those great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.